Hello everybody, welcome to Life Behind the Cover. I'm Taylor and today we're going to talk tips and tricks for how to read more, or if you've gotten out of reading, which I think a lot of people have, tips to get you back into it. So if I look crazy, which I do, it's because it is 104-degree weather outside, feels like it with the humidity. It's very hot in here. I have to turn my fan off because you can hear it on the camera. So, is my hair falling apart? Yes. Am I falling apart? Absolutely. Perfect time to film a video. Okay, so I'm going to cover 6 tips, most of which are going to apply to everybody. So if you just want to read more, put reading more in your life, make reading more a priority, absolutely, we have a ton of that in this video. I also wanted to talk about people who have loved reading in the past or are not into reading right now and want to get into reading again or at all. I think so many of us struggle to fit hobbies into our busy lives. I hope that this will kind of help people do that. So I have 6 tips. All of them I have like a little piece about and hopefully ways to implement them into your life. So let's just get started with number 1. Number 1 is to make reading a priority. So time is, as I've already spoken about, one of the hardest things to deal with because people are so busy. So if you're a parent, if you're a partner, hobbies, jobs, it's crazy right now how much people are fitting into schedules and not able to do things that like kind of bring them joy. So we all make the excuse, I know that I do, that I just don't have enough time. I just didn't have enough time. This is the tough love in me coming out. Everybody has time. Everybody has time. Everybody has 20 minutes on their lunch break or before bed on their way to work to read a little bit. You don't have to start out with a lot. You don't have to go, okay, well, I'm going to pick this book that I wanted to read forever and I'm going to read it in 2 days. Slow down. Put reading where it can go into your life. You don't have to stop your life. Find the 20 or 30 minutes in your life where you can put reading in without disrupting everything. Obviously, your relationships with friends, your kids, your job, whatever it is that you have that's been busy for you are super important, but they're not there all the time. I think it's really easy to say, I didn't have time. Everybody's got 20 minutes. Everybody can put it into their life. The fact of the matter is, the things you prioritize are the things that you do. So if you prioritize reading, you tell yourself, this is important to me, this is up there with the other things that I have to do in a day, you're going to make yourself read, frankly. A tip for making reading a priority is to add audiobooks into your life. I know some people are very adverse to audiobooks. Audiobooks are, again, going to be kind of part of the other tips too, because I think they're perfect for this, because times when normally you could not be reading. When you're cooking, when you're commuting, when you're doing your makeup, can now suddenly be time that you can read, which is perfect because it's one of the best ways to add reading into your existing life without changing anything up and being crazy. Okay, so this next one I think might be a little controversial because I've heard a lot about it, but we'll talk through it so that you can see where my mind is right now. So, sometimes you have to force yourself to pick up a book. I already hear people going, if you have to force yourself to read, it's not fun anymore and reading is supposed to be fun. Absolutely. If you don't find reading fun and you feel like you're forcing yourself through a book, don't read, find a different hobby, okay? That said, those of us who know that we love reading sometimes struggle with flipping on the TV because it's way easier than it is to pick up a book, sit down, and think about it. So what I mean when I say that you should force yourself to read, it's not for people who don't like reading. It's for people who love reading but are having difficulty getting back into it or reading more. It's a lot easier to flick on Netflix and watch something that you've watched 1,000 times than it is to pick up a book and think a little more. So I'm not meaning that you have to force yourself to read all the time. I'm just saying sometimes you have to make the choice to pick up a book instead of doing something else. If you're in a slump, haven't been reading lately, or you're reading a book you're not interested in, it's time to switch it up. So I would say you can switch up books, switch to a different genre, switch the way in which you're reading it. Or a tip that I find really helpful is to reread a favorite, because you know you're going to love it, and usually because you've read something that you loved, it's going to give you that feeling that you want to continue reading. I know when I read my favorite books that I'm going to come out excited and I'm going to want to read more. My next tip is to figure out what style of reading works for you. Sometimes we think there's only one way for us to read, and that's just not true. So, switch it up, try audiobooks. Graphic novels, I think, are a perfect gateway for people who are visual learners, love the art style of it, and can be kind of a gateway book to different types of books as well. I also know some people who like to read multiple books at once because they get kind of bored with something if they're sitting for too long looking at it. I think that my tip for this is to read different genres, like different types of books for sure, because you don't want to get that stuff mixed up. It's never bad to learn more about yourself and to figure out what kind of reading works for you, and then you can work around that. Tip number 5 is to get a reading buddy or somebody to keep you accountable. This also includes book clubs, which I think are phenomenal and wonderful and great and all things good. Basically, if you have to read a book by a certain time, like if you have a reading buddy for a certain book, or a book club has a set date for when you're going to discuss it, it's going to put pressure on you to finish the book. Also, I think what's great about reading with a buddy or with a group is that oftentimes when I finish a book, I'm like trying to force it on my friends so that I can talk about it, because you kind of want to talk about it the moment you get out of it. With a reading buddy or book club, I think that's one of the most exciting parts, is that you can share your feelings and hear other people's feelings. If you're super happy, if you have something you really want to talk about, or if you're upset or we're mad with a problematic part, I think that's what those things are for. So I think they really encourage reading. It's a great thing to do. My final tip is to participate in readathons. Now, if you've been on YouTube for a while, BookTube specifically, you're going to have seen so many different kinds of readathons. They happen all through the year. Anytime that's kind of good for you, they happen. Some of them are kind of like more guided with the types of books you should read. Some of them have things that you can do, but you don't have to. And some of them are more loosey-goosey. You're just all reading at the same time. I think these are good. It's that same thing about that excitement of everybody reading with you. I also think one of the great things in this is sprints. So if you don't know what sprints are, many times people on Twitter or other platforms, I think typically on Twitter though, will say, okay, from this time to this time, everybody's reading. And for those of you who are competitive, and I know that you're out there, I'm here too, it's a really fun way to get yourself reading for even a short burst. So you can say, last time I read 20 pages, I want to read past that this time and compete with yourself, or even try to be the person to read the most pages. That said, it is mostly for fun, so don't get serious, please. Well, that's all I have today for tips. If you guys have any tips on how either you got into reading or how you've learned to read more, please share them down below, because I think that would be a wonderful way for people to learn how different people kind of did that. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more bookish videos. Thank you so much.